Okay, cameras on.
A year?
We're doing a replacement. Yes. And that was awarded in early February.
Michelle, which way Missing Creek pedestrian bridge? By us or
Across from the wire pole.
didn't we work with that before?
Emergency repairs just to make it structurally sound. This is full replacement. 23,000 versus 250,000.
Alright, it's 12 o'clock, let's get moving. Call the infrastructure committee meeting for today to order. Hold on.
Steve Brenner,
Here?
Keith Durr,
Here.
Bill Jenks,
Here.
Fred Mogle,
Here.
and Dave Reeser.
Here. Okay, is there any public comment? Hearing none. Do we want to wait till Chris gets here to do number 4? For any particular reason? I know they're here, but Service Electric is here, but do we want to wait for Chris to be here? You gentlemen have a few extra minutes till our solicitor shows up? Sure. Sure? Okay. Moving on then, Western Berks Water Authority.
There's nothing new to report. Everything seems to be working well at the moment. They're still looking into the connections with this Rawa situation. Apparently, have not come up with a conclusion yet, but Scott Stevens is looking at it, so it's being looked at. So there's no answer to it at the moment. But at least
And you're referring to the
Backup.
also the backup, yeah,
Backup.
yeah.
Under the Route 12
Both the
bridge.
connection, correct, repair the connection, and also the backup.
There's two issues and they're working on it. I guess they're kind of one and the same.
Right. That's all I had to report, Western Berks.
Well, we appreciate that. It's pretty quick today. That's good work.
You don't wanna hear any problem. I don't wanna hear any problem.
All right, anything else? Moving on to the zone codes report.
Just to save Andy Lehman from Summerall Construction's time, is there any interest in jumping to number 18, which is the well request for underground irrigation?
How about we jump to number 18 and discuss 1001 Reading Boulevard?
Our
Do
request,
we need our solicitor here for this?
I don't think so, because we've already approved a similar request, for another property.
so Andy Lehman, representing Summerall Construction, we're the general contractor for 1001 Reading Boulevard. Ms. Rawdon is requesting that she be able to construct a well on the property. The well would locate just in front of currently where her pool and pool house is. The well would only be to serve landscaping needs. She's currently experiencing water pressure issues to the house and the pool house, which that can be remedied with some booster pumps. But she's looking for the well to serve the landscaping needs, especially irrigating during the summer when there's dry weather. It would not in any way be connected to the buildings. It would only be used for landscaping purposes. The equipment would locate in the pool house basement, but again, not be connected to any domestic use in the pool house, the house, or the garage.
And for some background, this committee and council approved an identical request for 1629 Museum Road, the Arnold property, back in, I think it was 2018, which Andy was also, Summerall was the contractor on that as well, so very familiar with the process and the restrictions.
So to be clear, there's not going to be any physical meters or anything sticking out of the ground.
No.
I was just not there.
Vertical well will be capped, below grade, nothing seen above, but again, no connection to the
When you say the front of the pool house,
Just in
that would,
front of-
I don't know what the front would be. The front, is the front on Reading Boulevard?
Correct.
Call the front. Okay.
And Jim's part of the inspection process. For the Arnold well, Jim was out there just checking the connections to make sure.
Too bad.
Yes.
Checking if there weren't any connections.
Yes.
Is there gonna be a fence around the pool?
There,
Code
there is.
requirement, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had a couple questions asked about the well, that other folks are thinking that this would be a nice way to water their lawn without having to use their own water that we have. Is that how that would work? You just get a, make a well, or what do you do? Committee? anybody put a well in your yard?
For irrigation purposes, with a recommendation from this committee and council approval only.
Okay, but there's no, are there any, do you need to have 3 acres of property or 5, or can you do it with half acre and you have, can you put a well in your property if you want to?
There's nothing in the borough code restricting it as long as it goes through this committee and
Okay.
council.
And it can't be used for domestic water at all.
No, just for irrigation purposes.
The other reason we allow them is for geothermal.
I would assume it's not an inexpensive proposition.
It is not.
Yeah, so
Well,
to do it on,
put
in
it-
your backyard or my backyard would not be, you know,
Would that be used to fill the pool?
No, it would only be for irrigation.
That's to collect the rainwater, or
Pardon?
collects the rainwater,
Now,
or?
this is a vertical well that would go down into the ground.
Mr.
tap
J,
into
this is
the-
our meeting. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Vertical well down into an
Oh.
underground stream. So, and it would not be used to fill the pool, just for landscaping. And you are correct, it is not an inexpensive, because if you use a well to water landscaping, you have to greatly upsize that pump. I'm sure you gentlemen already know that, but, so it's, you're correct, not an inexpensive option.
Are there any other questions for Andy?
So unfortunately, the way this was put on the agenda, the required motion was not part of the agenda.
So we need to make a motion to amend the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Motion is second to amend the infrastructure committee meeting agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment?
I guess I got my answer.
No problem. Hearing none, there is,
I'll make a motion to approve, the, well for the irrigation system only at 1001 Reading Boulevard.
Second.
Make a recommendation.
I got
council making a recommendation. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to recommend to council to allow 1001 Reading Boulevard to install an underwater irrigation system for landscaping only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes carry.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, we appreciate it.
Best of luck.
Nice to see you, Andy.
So that's still to get approved by council next time.
Yes, and then they're gonna need a building permit to actually do it.
Okay.
All's well.
You guys still good?
Yep.
Sure?
Yep.
All right. And we'll go to the zoning and codes report.
Sure, so I'm just gonna kind of touch on some highlights here unless anybody has specific questions. Going through the property maintenance code list, some updates. The permit for 44 Cheltenham Drive that's been outstanding for quite some time, was paid for last Friday. That's tied into a new NOV that's been issued for 1041 Burn Road. Same person, very similar issue of doing work without permits at both properties, so Kraft's office is following up with that person. 103 Park Road, the owner had not responded to the NOV and removed the tree at the property within the time frame. So Jim and I talked about it, it was added to our tree removal contract. Jim went out and looked at the property last Wednesday, the tree was there, the tree removal contractor showed up Friday and the tree was gone. So, not sure how that miraculously disappeared in 36 hours, but it did, so I guess all is well that ends well.
Are we charged anything for that?
There is going to be, they had to order a special lift.
The contractor, he showed up Friday and he calls me and he says, the tree's not there anymore. Okay, he did have to, rent, some sort of lift he was gonna use because it was on the other side of the fence, it was hard access. And, he has asked if he could get some, not the cost of the whole removal, but some sort of cost to cover his rental of that machine. I don't know what that cost is, I'm guessing maybe a third of the removal price.
Would that be passed on to the landowner?
Yes. Invoice plus,
I suggested it would be.
invoice plus 10%. I mean, the notice they received clearly stated if they didn't take care of removing the tree within the stated time frame, the borough had the right to do so and charge them for the cost plus 10%, so.
I'll just ask the contractor for an invoice for the round.
1741 Paper Mill Road, which is the former Crown Plaza. D-Bolt was actually out there this morning cutting the grass so it no longer looks like a hayfield. I did reach out to my contacts at Veteran Services 2 weeks ago with pictures of the grass, basically stating, you know, the property looks deplorable, it's in the heart of our commercial district, what are you doing? And I have not received a response.
So we sent people out to cut it, and they're gonna be paying for it.
Same thing, we invoice the property owner plus 10% at the end of the season. If they've not paid the bill, we lien the property.
And when is the season?
Typically October.
Okay.
Let me see. I think that might be it for. Yep, that's it for my specific updates. Does anybody have any questions?
I didn't see one for that Meadowlark property that we took out. It looks like they cut the grass in the front, but the back and along Museum Road is still a mess. I mean, it looks like a hayfield.
Depending, so the date of this report cut, no, this went through 6/13. Can you check with Jeff on that one?
Is it Meadowlark? Yeah, I don't know the number, 1,500 plus.
Yeah, and I know,
They cut the grass in the front yard, but the back looks like a hayfield and along Museum Road, which really looks bad. It's
yeah,
like real high grass along Museum Road.
they might have thought that was the borough's property, not theirs.
Well, they didn't do the backyard, they did
That's not the purpose.
No.
it nearby. I go past, it's across from, Causa.
Well,
And you weren't,
One of them,
there was somebody else that reached out to me about that property too, so
yeah, I had a couple calls.
I see why.
The, what is it? Vista Road, the backyards that are facing Berkshire Restaurant. Is that Vista?
That is Woodland on one side, Valley Green on the other.
Okay, Woodland there. I noticed the other day, the backyards, those properties are really bad. I mean, just upkeep wise, I saw there's a shed door hanging open by one, hinge it looks like. It's just going right down the line. There's issues with every one of those properties, in the
Okay.
backyards.
Can you mention that one? Thank you. That would be like 0 to 100 block of Woodland, not even.
Yeah, if he goes on Berkshire Restaurants parking lot, and looks over there, we'll see.
I have a question, there's some storage containers near the field house on the hayfield. What are they, they've been there, seems like forever, there's grass growing around it. What,
Where?
It's for the.
The hayfield.
what's it for?
The
I
hayfield.
believe it's for the trash from the construction that they're doing at the building. I believe that's what the answer is.
The trash things, they don't, it doesn't appear to be
Well,
open.
there may be storage then.
Oh,
It's either trash or storage,
okay.
but
Meaning,
it has something to do with the construction at the high school.
So, but it's temporary, obviously.
They're temporary, so.
I would hope so. They're gonna be.
they weren't there now.
All right, it just seemed that they were there for a long time, I wasn't sure.
Typically, for any type of storage container like that, if you have an active building permit, you can have the dumpster or the storage container as long as the permit's active.
I'm fine with it, that's what's cool.
Okay, anything else for the zoning code report? Okay, hearing none, if anybody doesn't mind, we'll go back to number 4, for the request from Service Electric for the service franchise agreement. Gentlemen, thank you for being patient.
Sure, absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Carl Kovacs, I'm the General Manager of Service Electric Cable Division. With me is Chris Ellis, he's our Operations Manager. We would like to bring an alternative broadband provider into the borough. We've been operating Berks County since the 60s. We've been in business 74 years. And this is the first start. It's going to be here. Answer questions you may have.
My understanding from my discussions with your attorney is that you're starting with some kind of a system in Spring Township, I believe, and then you wanted to expand out to Wyomissing and Shillington and Moncton, I believe, I'm not sure where else. Can you give us a little more specifics about what your plan of action is?
So, our plan is to build these areas with fiber to the home. every house gets counted, every house gets a fiber optic drop, whether they choose to use us or not, but it's built that way. Traditionally, we did HFC, which is hybrid fiber coax, where we have a fiber node out there, and then we extend the coax through the community. Well, technology's changing, and we're going all fiber. So the time was right for us to expand out into other communities we never served.
So, my understanding has been that cable TV is shrinking in terms of market, but things like, you know, internet streaming is growing. So what is the market opportunity that you're trying to take advantage of?
Just more households.
Providing internet and telephone as well?
Mm-hmm.
And is this above ground cabling or underground cabling?
It's whatever exists now. So it's an underground development would be underground, if it's an aerial.
Does this include television?
I'm sorry?
Does this include TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you get a TVG horse racing station? I'm asking for a friend.
And they're off.
I don't know if you're familiar with our company.
I am familiar. I know you had a national station at one time.
We do.
We still do.
Yeah.
Do you have TVG?
I don't believe we currently
We
do.
do not.
You gotta get that.
So you're gonna basically compete against Comcast, you're gonna go
Head to head.
head to head against Comcast.
Correct.
And just for my visualization, so if there's wires up there now, there's gonna be one more wire added to the,
Correct.
and if it's underground, we're gonna run it underground.
Correct.
So if you come into Wyomissing, will you be using fiber optic, or you be doing the Comcast hanging from the
Well,
tree?
yeah, it'd be 100% fiber optic.
So it'll be a switch from what we have now in Wyomissing.
Yeah, they have HFC plant here, so they have hybrid fiber coax. So instead of a small piece of coax like RG6 coming into your house, it'd be a little thin fiber line.
Well, my understanding was the fiber optic was underground.
No, not necessarily. It's aerial and underground.
So what's Comcast running in Wyomissing now?
What do they utilize?
Yeah.
It's HFC, hybrid fiber and coax. So they have fiber nodes, and then they extend off the fiber nodes with coax. We're not gonna have any fiber nodes, we're gonna be purely coax, purely fiber detrunk.
So how does the service compare to Verizon, the Verizon service,
The FiOS,
yeah, the
it's the same
Fios?
thing.
So it's the same as Comcast, so it's not
No,
better?
it's the same as FiOS. What we're proposing to build in the borough would be the same as FiOS.
And Comcast doesn't have this?
They don't do fiber to the home.
All right, so your fiber would be an improvement on the existing system?
Yeah, it's improving reliability.
That I've been waiting for 7 years with commercials that never made it to Wyomissing. So
Hmm.
you're the guys delivering it instead of Verizon.
Yeah, Verizon doesn't have five here, right?
No, I know, they don't.
Right.
But you guys give them competition.
It's 5G.
Great.
There'll be
No,
330.
Well,
No,
wait,
that's different than
Our
5G.
industry's setting the
5G is
tone.
wireless.
Oh, really?
That's exactly what I do.
So you're offering an upgrade from the existing service providers in this area?
It's a very similar product, but it has a lot more potential. Like I said, our industry is building our networks for 10G. Even though your PC can't do it, but one day the processors will be fast enough to do that.
So,
Assuming this would be approved, how long until implementation?
So what has to happen is, we have to have people come in and walk the pole lines, take the numbers, take the measurements, to submit the poles to the utilities that own the poles, whether it's the phone company, the power company, and then they have to prove, they have to make arrangements for the safety reasons. And then once that's done, then we can build it. So give you a timeline, it's tough to say because I don't know how fast other parts of this would come together.
2 years or 10 years?
Probably a year and a half to 2 years.
so it's subscriber based, you need an X number of subscribers to go hanging wires along one, this is like 5,000 or 2,000 before you're gonna even start the job.
No, you're
Oh,
gonna
no,
do
no.
the job first.
No, it gets built first. It gets built and then, if you know, hopefully people sign up.
Yeah, I thought that was why FiOS wasn't here, because they didn't have enough subscribers.
No. FiOS, they stopped all their tier 2 markets 15 years ago. They came out of Philly a little ways and stopped, into Chester County. And I don't know what their business model was and why they stopped, but they did.
We get a fee from Comcast now, don't we?
Yeah, that's one of my follow-up questions is, I anticipate that you'll be seeking a franchise agreement with the borough, similar to the one that the borough already has with Comcast.
Correct.
So like to that agreement, under the federal regulations, the borough can receive a fee based on the cable television services, but the borough does not receive a fee for the internet services that are provided. So that wouldn't be any different for Service Electric than it is with our current arrangement with Comcast.
Correct.
What impacts do you anticipate that the borough would be aware of in terms of the work being done? I mean, are you gonna need to shut down streets at any point
No,
or
we won't.
anything like that?
We'll handle traffic control. We may have some minor encroachments, so we have to have flaggers out there as we go through. Paddleboard, stop and yield and, cones as we're going through an area, but it goes, we're in that area pretty quick.
Did you contract that out, or was that Service Electric?
A little of both.
So how big is this wire? How thick is it? Same size as a Comcast wire?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. The drop going to the house is much smaller.
It's smaller.
Yeah. When it gets fiber, it's very small.
That's good.
Are there additional equipment that has to be mounted on poles?
There's much less equipment. So in an HFC environment, you have the fiber node and then you have all the amplifiers, those shiny silver things, but we don't have that. We'll have one fiber optic node that would feed the entire area. So it's only one, and everything else is transmitted out from that.
So from the start of somebody here, council approving this, at what point do people call you and say, hook me up?
So as we build it, we put door hangers out that says service has been extended to your area, and then they can call. Plus direct marketing, they send them mailers and things like that. Once they get it, they know they can get
So within a year of signing up, you'd have something acting in the borough?
Within a year to two, yeah, until we get it built, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? So we need to,
Well, I don't think there's anything for official action required at this time. We will wait to hear from you with some proposal for a franchise agreement, and you can go from there.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you very much.
thank you,
Thank you,
thanks for
gentlemen.
waiting.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Now, there is an additional topic, which is whether council wants to use Cohen Law Group. And my understanding is that Spring Township is using the Cohen Law Group to negotiate their franchise agreement with Service Electric. This is the same Pittsburgh law firm that the borough has used the last couple of times to negotiate with Comcast to get a, Cohen has expertise in this area. They do a lot of these sort of multi-municipal cable franchise agreements, and I would recommend that we would use them along with Spring Township and any of the other local municipalities that are going to be doing this project with Service Electric. I think it's efficient, and they have the skills and experience to do a good job.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the board, to council rather, to approve working with the Cohen Law.
Second.
We have a motion to second to move along with the Cohen Law Group to negotiate the service franchise agreement with Service Electric for cable services in the borough. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry. Okay. We already got through Western Berks Water Authority and zoning. How about water?
We had a meeting with Wexcon, the contractor, last week, only to find out that the 10-inch pipe that is needed for the project most likely will not get delivered till February of 2023. Same old thing. That being said, the money budgeted, $335,000, will not be used this year. So I probably won't propose a second project for next year. This will just become next year's project. There's nothing urgent on there's improvements we can make to the system, but nothing that's.
This is the Trent Avenue, right?
Correct. The only thing I would throw out as a discussion point is, being that we're not spending the $335,000, there are some larger commercial meters we could replace if you'd be open to taking a portion of that budget money for this year and purchasing some commercial meters that we would install.
Are they gonna hold the price of $336 for next year? Or they're gonna?
They
give
have
us
their
a-
order in at a set price, so.
Okay, so I mean, they're not gonna come back with some inflationary
No,
number next year.
no.
Given that money's there, just off the top of my head, how much would it cost, since we're doing Reading Boulevard to Squire, and then down to Logan next year, since the equipment's there, what about, how much would it cost to bring it all the way down to Logan?
People wouldn't have curbs done.
Ew.
Straight curbs.
And it's water fund money as opposed to general fund money. I don't know how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, if you're,
Well, so-
proposal, get some prices on a proposal.
I have no problem if we're gonna
Split
say,
by the playground.
This is Trent, if you're heading up the boulevard, Trent will be on your left.
Well, it's for 1,000 more.
Yes, and then it's just that 2 blocks from there, if you turn left down the Parkside Drive North.
And why was that award as before my time? Why is the replacement
The
necessary?
replacement there is, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we had rusty water complaints in that whole area, Albright, Lehigh, Lafayette, and we tried many things and ended up replacing all that pipe. This is the last piece of pipe in that area that hasn't been replaced and we haven't had many rusty water issues, just one. There's one gentleman there that complains most, but it is of that same vintage of other pipes we replaced.
how much you think of these meters cost that you want to buy?
2-inch meter probably costs around $1,500, a 6-inch meter around $6,000.
How many do you want to buy?
I would say a dozen.
So,
You know, if we had 50, 75 grand of that,
so Keith will have Phyllis set aside money, the $336,000 minus whatever we pay if we're gonna go ahead and get the meters. And then next year we'll just have to make up the amount.
we
of
just have to
meter money
re-budget next year.
For the meter money. So we'll already have the majority of the money there.
Just get
I
something.
think when we go to budget season, whatever meters I buy, they're done, and I'd say, hey, we need to budget for this water job $336,000.
So you don't have anything else?
Nothing that's
For next
urgent
year.
that would make me say we gotta do 2 projects next year. There's nothing, there's always improvements to be made, but nothing
This
urgent.
sounds pleasant to the ears for heading into
So
the fall.
just let's firm up pricing on the meters and
All right.
bring it to.
Are they co-stars or how are you gonna get the meters?
The meters, I don't know how you word it, we use Neptune meters, so you can't just pick any kind of meter.
All right, so this is
What do you call that?
Proprietary?
it's an
Proprietary.
all right, so it's an exception to public bidding
Yeah.
because of the specialized
Right.
product. All right, I'm good with that.
You wanna have that, just the finance, or you wanna come back to this?
No, I think we can say, hey, let's, do we need to authorize him to go out and buy the meters?
Well, I would suggest a motion to authorize the purchase of the meters subject to finance.
So that way it'll get approved in finance, and then you can buy them after the
I
next
will,
council.
when's the finance meeting?
7th.
July 7th.
Before then, I will, tally what we need and get prices from the vendor, and you can have that at the finance.
And then we can, if we approve the finance, we can move it to council the following week, and then you can get them, rather than waiting for another month. back to the start.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to recommend to finance and admin for Jim to bid out, to get quotes on the commercial, is it, what'd you say, the 2-inch and 6-inch commercial? meters?
Right.
That's at Neptune.
Neptune meters, thank you. We have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Happy shop.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the Western Berks Water Authority plant shutdown?
No, it's planned and, no, should go smoothly, we hope. They're gonna start this summer, I believe, latest.
Yeah, I'm just kind of waiting to hear from Western Berks on what Spot Stevens has found out.
Yes, I know they're working on it, but, spoke to Chip this morning, we have had no final decision, but it's being looked at. Preliminarily, they thought there wasn't gonna be an issue, but how that goes.
Okay. Sanitary sewer?
The contractor's gonna start later this week or early next week. The pump station, Jim's office is working on that. Again, we wanna bid it this fall so we can have it in place next spring.
How long do you think it takes?
Who knows? It's a pump pipe availability issue. We will have, once he gets that together, we should have a budget number, to put in this fall's budget for next year.
And the
But this
pump-
isn't the West Clayton Greenwood Mall, or it is?
No, this is the Berkshire Boulevard sewage pump station.
Okay.
One down near the shops.
Right.
Any other questions?
No, I meant the one above that, the one that is starting next week.
Oh, that is clean, yes, that's
Yeah,
cleaning and
Clayton.
televising Greenwood Mall,
Right.
Downstate Hill, and another drainage basin. It's 2 drainage basins, and then some repairs from last year's televising work. But cleaning and televising is the bulk of it.
And we're on budget.
Well, it's
Yeah.
a 304, but it looks like we already spent 96. Was the 96?
That was a carryover from last year, there was a late invoice.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the total's we're at the 400 then, we're still
Yes.
on budget
Yeah,
at 400.
it'll be close to
But-
that
but-
number, yeah.
Okay. Moving on, streets?
Jim's office is working on the 50/50 sidewalk. I believe it's ready to go out to bid now with the inclusion of these handicap ramps at Deborah Drive and Valley Road. And I forget if we mentioned at a previous meeting that due to this timing, this will be another one that will not come in front of infrastructure. It will get voted on. We'd like it to get voted on at the next council meeting. We could disperse the bid information prior to that. But in the essence of saving time, to bypass this committee and go right to council.
I think in the past, we've had motions from this committee authorizing the procedure or, condoning it or whatever.
I'll make a motion. Let's get that constructed, go to council. Accelerate the project.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to skip the infrastructure committee with the 50/50 sidewalk contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
As far as the regular street work, they're all done with the curb work on Garfield. They're moved out to Reading Boulevard at this point. And we don't have a start date, but shortly after the 4th, we'll be milling and paving Garfield Avenue.
Is it Reading Boulevard or Wyomissing Boulevard?
Reading Boulevard from Clayton to Squire.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant extend Garfield across.
No, they'll be doing Garfield, just from Wyomissing Boulevard west to Clayton Avenue.
So we're avoiding the circle. Coolidge Circle, right? We're avoiding that.
That little, there's a little
Right.
piece there, yeah. But there are two
That's
different
what I'm
roads
saying.
on the same contract.
I just wanted to say Coolidge Circle.
And that's the 9 streets that we're
Yeah,
budgeted for
Yeah.
1.45.
yeah.
So is the 1.45, in addition, is the 1146, it's part of the 1455, is there more, or is that
I just,
under budget?
from my recollection, when we opened bids, we were, and I don't have these numbers in front of me, we were under budget, and
We did other
this
street.
committee decided to
Yeah.
add Spring Street.
Okay,
to it.
all right, okay.
Yep, I remember that also. All right, so moving forward with this, with the road work, don't have to do anything. with
Yeah,
that.
you don't have to do anything, we should be getting a first payment application shortly.
So just so Phyllis keeps all that, just like she always does, Michelle, with capital projects, we can see where we're at with it.
Bike sharing station, anything new?
So the stations have officially been up and running for a little over a month now. We got a little shy of $400 in revenue from that first 2.5 week period. Checking last week, I wanna say there was almost $700 sitting in there for the month of June already. So if anybody's ever interested in seeing the back end administrative login, I can pull that up during the meeting and just kinda show you what it looks like, but it's seamless. They come out every 2 weeks, check the bikes, rebalance them, deal with all the
Who's day?
Mobotics. Deal with all of the, customer support issues if a rider has a problem. I've received really good feedback from West Reading that their residents love it, the bikes get used heavily. I've gotten similar feedback from some of our residents.
Great.
They were out in force this week, I thought, I understand. I think you said that 2 racks were empty.
Good,
Wasn't a bike to be had.
good.
They keep those running when they're in the racks too, like the police cars. All right, Cambridge Avenue stream work,
There's no update, that's just staying on there until the work's actually done.
okay.
Same thing with number 12. Do you have any update, actually, the environment clearance?
We have a meeting Monday,
Okay,
next week, the 27th.
so meeting next week regarding the environmental clearances.
This is one of my arguments.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
that's a
assume we
PennDOT
have to-
grant.
We don't have to sort of discuss anything about the Green Light Go stuff. It's already done.
We actually do. So, 2018 is the incorrect one, correct?
Yes.
What was awarded at council last week, that 159,514.25 for the 2018 Green Light Go is incorrect. That is, and Jim, correct me if I'm stating this incorrectly, that is the borough's match amount, not the amount of the contract.
As I understand it, the 2018 and 2019 combined, the total cost awarded to Telco is $248,490.75.
Which is what just 2019 was awarded at. So Chris, did you get a chance, those emails that were flying last week, Jim and I were asking,
I see this correct, it's 18 is 159.
this
What
is
am I missing?
not what council awarded last
Oh,
week.
okay.
Council awarded one contract at 105,000, the other at 159,000.
Okay, I got you.
So,
I think there should be a recommendation from this committee to council to, clean up the council approval
for the
that
correct
was
amount.
erroneously stated at the council meeting.
Okay. So then it's 2019 was the incorrect amount.
I thought the incorrect amount was due to.
It was put on the
code
agenda.
if you will.
No, it was put, from what Jim said in his email, it was put on the agenda in the wrong amount.
Well, it needs to be awarded,
At the
and
correct
I look
amount.
at the two as a 2018, 2019, it's one project. It's 2 projects, but it's being done by one contractor, one project, for a total of 248,
.75, would that be the cleaner way to do it, just award both projects at one?
Well, we have been treating these as two separate projects. I mean, in practical effect, they may function as one project, but I'd like to keep the approvals separate to maintain the integrity of the process that's been in place. So,
Says, I'll make a motion to recommend that goes back to Jim and Michelle to verify and correct the appropriate bid numbers for 18 and 19 and have them before the next council meeting.
have that information restated as a motion for approval by council.
To supplant or whatever the prior motion I was making correctly.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Yeah, so I mean, you gotta go back, so the funding
Wait a
is still
second.
in
The,
place.
the funding's not changing. It's what council actually approved in the motion at council last week was the incorrect amount. It was the match amount, not the contract amount.
So we can amend it at the next council meeting.
Yes. You just have to go through
Yeah,
that
because
process.
this is a reimbursement program, we should be stating the full amount, even though the ultimate expenditure will be less than the face amount of the contract.
Can we state both?
That would perhaps make the clearest record of what is going on.
Then I amend my motion to state the total project price for 18 and 19 and a total match for each project.
We have a second.
Correcting whatever was done at the last council meeting.
We have a second for that. A second. Questions?
Can we just make sure that whatever that's done is done before finance, so we can see that, so Phyllis corrects whatever's on this for our outstanding capital project?
Yes.
But that number total is right.
Well, no, it can't be, because it's $526,000.
Well, what
The
I.
total for 2019 is 526, so it's not even close to 248.
Here.
What I suspect is on the finance report that Phyllis prepared is the full contract amount, not the match amount.
She has down the full amount and then a funding of 420,000
420,384.
as the funded portion for 19. And 165, 159 for the 2018, with a full amount of 2018 of 215,000 and a full amount of 19 for 526,000. It's just that the numbers aren't even close, so I'm just concerned because it's not a close match.
So Jim's email from the day after council last week, council approved the incorrect contract amount of $105,096 last night for telco. That amount was the borough match, so that is our match, which was approved by council in August 2021. The telco contract is $248,490.75. I noticed the discrepancy today reviewing the infrastructure agenda. It was narrow, but not sure if it falls under de minimis. And no, that to me is not de minimis.
That's a joke.
I was
Yes.
waiting for that word to come out
Yes.
again.
Ignore that.
Yes. That to me is not de minimis.
But that number doesn't come
Keith, what
close
number
to
did you
this.
say was the funding amount?
For which one? 18 was 166, 19 was 420. And the full project, so the 105 doesn't equate to any of the, well, I guess the 105, yes, you're right. The 105 would be
The 420.
what the borough would own net of funding of the full project. It would be net of funding for the full project, would be the 105 for the 2019 project. So that's what the 105 is. For 526 versus 420.
But it doesn't change the motion, all you're doing is asking it to be the information.
Yeah, I just wanna, I mean, the project cost total is
Why don't we
526.
just make sure that we can clarify this information for the finance committee meeting and have the numbers ready for the council meeting?
amend the motion.
Just say,
Have it ready for administration.
To get the numbers
Admin-
correct.
Admin and finance.
all right, now we have a motion for that. Do we have a second for that? Any other questions?
Follow along with.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to finance. Okay,
No update on number 15, that's just staying on until PennDOT does something with the bridge.
library facilities.
We do have a invoice for $40,600 from McCloskey Mechanical. The total project, I believe, is 58. They are 90% complete. They need to put in a little bit of ductwork. And I don't quite understand this. There's 2 air conditioning units that are now working and running independently. Everything's fine, but they're supposed to run in tandem, and whatever the mechanical part is that makes them run in tandem, they're waiting for that part. But I feel good about paying them $40,600.
So we can at the same time.
Yeah, there's 2 units that are supposed to run in tandem, and they're running independently now. No, it's the way it was designed. I don't know, it's a weird one, yeah.
All right, so we need a motion to pay application number 1 of $40,600 to
McCloskey.
McCloskey
Mechanical contract.
Mechanical Contractors.
So moved.
A motion, we have a second.
Second.
A motion is second to pay application number 1 of $40,600 to McCloskey, blah, blah, blah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Trucks?
Recap, again, we have a truck on order that is not budgeted in 2022, it's budgeted in 2023. For 2023 delivery, that's a done deal. The truck vendor has let us know, even if we order a truck now in 2022, we could expect delivery in 2024. So we kicked that around at a previous meeting. The truck that we're waiting for delivery for, that's already on order, is $181,680. We'll budget for that in the fall. But this is looking out to 2024. That same truck, it would be a sister truck to the one we ordered, is now, instead of 181,000, 205,000. So there's no money involved here, it's just, how do we feel about ordering a truck for delivery in 2024?
I mean, at some point, we're gonna need to get the truck, we might as well get the ball rolling, so it's not gonna get any cheaper, is
Is
it?
there any choice or any option?
Well, we usually run all Freightliners, all the bigger trucks. We did decide to talk to another vendor, Mack Truck, they're at 246. And from what my mechanic says, the advantages of Mack for an extra 40 grand aren't worth it. We're satisfied with a lesser dollar amount of the Freightliner.
So I don't think you need anything from us, just a sort of a nod to go ahead and move ahead. I mean, it's gonna be part of your 2024
I
budget's
will,
already chewed
and
up.
I will confirm it if I order, is that a firm number for 2024? I would confirm that before I actually place the order.
We can do anything else.
So doesn't council have to approve that?
Yeah, council has to approve that recommendation. My understanding was that these are not binding obligations once you place the order. I mean, is that understanding accurate on my part? Can you cancel these orders?
I've never run into that, so I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
I've never tried to cancel an order.
I mean, I guess the reason I ask that is, what if pricing collapses
Yeah.
sometime in the next 18 months?
Right.
Would we be able to change the deal?
Well, why don't you ask that question when we get the firm number?
Are these through, was it Pencor,
Co-stars.
Ghost?
Yes.
Isn't there some discussion about going outside of CoStars and bidding it for
services. Well, what some vendors have said is that for 2022, they are not honoring CoStar's pricing. So that if you try to use the CoStar's pricing, they will not accept your request for purchase. So that in order to get equipment in 2022, you gotta pay whatever they're asking, which is a substantial premium over the CoStar's pricing.
But then you have to bid.
Yes, you would have to bid it in order to pay more than CoStar's, go outside of CoStar's.
We're having that problem with supplies with some of our chemical vendors. We have a contract, we say instead of $10 or whatever, it's now gonna be $14. Because we say that's what it's gonna be. And so we're witnessing that all the time now, it's the same type of thing. I don't know how you stop it.
Right, so what does this committee have to do to let Jim go out and get the firm number and find out if it's a firm commitment?
Well, I would say a motion to recommend to council that Jim be authorized to order this piece of equipment, subject to confirming price and what the terms are with regard to cancellation of the order before he places the order.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to do what Chris Hartman just said. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay.
So are you expecting the 1-ton pickup to come in this year?
Yes, that's ordered, that will be here,
That will be
budgeted
here.
and will be here this year.
Okay, so we're okay with that as
Yes.
far as.
Okay. Special Infrastructure Committee meeting.
So you may recall, and remember who was at the mayor, the April meeting, we started having a short conversation about borough facilities and long-term planning, and there was a decision made by the committee to schedule a special meeting date over the summer.
Yep.
Well, it's now June, so time to pick a date.
Okay. I would highly recommend from one person's calendar that we do it in August. Okay.
Do you
Any lot of
wanna-
objection to that?
Do you wanna stick with the Monday at the same time?
Sure. Monday at noon?
Just extend the regular meeting to include the special meeting.
That's a good idea too.
You could do that.
Do we have time for that, or do we wanna do it a separate date?
Fair warning, I will not be at that August meeting.
Then we're gonna do it a different date.
Yeah.
Can't we just add it to the agenda for the regulars and just say it's gonna take a long time?
That's what we just said, but she's not gonna be here. So
Right.
Oh,
when's the one in July again?
The one in July would be the 18th.
I won't be here.
well, it's a 10-year program, so I don't know that it has to get started in the next month. It's got 10 years to work on it. I mean, it's a long-range plan, so.
Let's add it to the September infrastructure meeting. Can we do that? That's still technically summer.
That's the 19th, I don't see why not.
Okay.
You're right, it is still summer by like one day.
So we'll add at the end of that on the 19th?
Yes.
That was my question. So you need a special meeting, or are you just gonna add it to the agenda of the infrastructure meeting?
You can add it to the agenda.
To the
I think it just needs to be its own agenda item.
Yeah,
To
it's just
the
an
agenda
agenda.
meeting.
The meeting's just gonna
It's
be
gonna
longer.
take longer, right?
Right.
And I don't know that we need to plan 10 years in one meeting either.
No, I think it's just, we need to start talking.
Got it. Fair enough. Okay, so we'll do that September 19th. Long-range planning. Okay. Number 20 is the Old Mill Road request for reduction of the first quarter 2022 water bill in the amount of $3,612.73. What was the new information that we heard about the other day? Is there any new information?
You have this
Yeah.
on there? There's no real super new information. This is, Kim produced this. If you see the amount billed, the top one, 178.98, that was just from our last meter reading on 6/30 for his quarterly bill. So That's down, it's his second lowest, dollar amount that he's had since 2020. So, I'm still of the adage that that 3,612, that water went through that meter for a reason that we don't understand. But it went through the meter. A meter just doesn't generate random numbers. But what caused that, I don't know.
If it ran through the meter, does that mean it definitely went through the sewer?
That would be I don't know, again, we don't know. If you wanted to hit a compromised position, I'd say it filled water and give them a break on the sewer. That would be a compromised position.
I just think there's so many things that can't be explained in this thing, because the timing, it's just such, and he did come in with everybody going through the house, and nobody can find anything wrong.
Well-
It just doesn't go away.
If I can quote from his, paper that he gave us. He, meaning the plumber, checked the water softener and said, okay, but now older, it could possibly cause excessive use in the future and recommended replacement. I think the water softener is the culprit. And did it go funny there for 1 quarter? I don't know.
Well, it was 2 weeks in the same period in 2 months.
Yes.
And then went back to normal.
That stopped and then it came again.
Yeah, so,
Which
and
can
I
be
think
done by
that's
time.
very normal for water softeners. In the past, I think we've had more problem with water softeners than anything. And they're you can't figure them out, why it's not. But that's usually the culprit.
Well, I had the issue with the humidifier.
Right, right, the same idea.
I'm of the opinion that you do some kind of compromise, pay the water and give a break on the sewer, would be my opinion.
Well, I have a problem if the borough assumes the borough cannot assume responsibility for malfunctions inside a house. You open that door, you might as well have a separate committee, and all you're gonna do is discuss people coming in with their water bills and geez, this and that. I just think it's a very dangerous precedent. I really do. I really have an issue with it. And it's unfortunate, 3,600, a lot of money, but I think clearly something happened inside the house which we can't explain. I think it's a water softener, but certainly can't prove it.
I don't disagree with you, Dave, the only thing is, why did it go back to normal then, and then it did it again, and then went back to normal
Yeah,
again?
don't,
You know, it just doesn't.
don't answer any logic.
And I got one too, and it's like, I know I had problems with mine, but it didn't just fix itself.
No,
Yeah,
as
so
you're saying,
No,
So
but
what
but somebody could have fixed it by correcting the timer on the water softener.
But then,
For when it
well, you
then it
can
broke
turn it
again.
off.
Or when it backwashes
Or turn it off.
or.
But then it broke
whatever.
again 4 weeks later when nobody's in the house. There was a 4-week period, it was 2 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing wrong, 2 weeks, I don't know what the answer is, I can't figure it out.
No, I'm just making assumptions here.
Oh, it's probably set up,
But
if in fact it was, the timer was set up to backwash this time every month. And that's exactly what it did.
I just think it's a dangerous precedent, guys. Dangerous precedent. And we certainly had these cases in the past. Over the years, you talk to water people.
Yeah, it's not uncommon, to have a high water bill. Some of them can be explained, some can't. I don't know the frequency of a $3,000 one. Kim's not here. I don't know the answer to that, but, it happens.
Did you find out, Jim, that this is not just a once in a lifetime occurrence? I mean, the size of the bill. Didn't you ask them and said there's been couple $1,000 bills?
Yes, to the tune of 3,600, I'm not sure, but when I asked the question to Kim, she says, yeah, people get $1,000, if you wanna say $1,000 plus water bills, every time we read the quarterly meters.
Absolutely.
It
I
happens.
had a woman come in on Friday, I was covering the front desk who, she had a really high bill and she's like, I think one of my toilets is leaking, I have 5 toilets.
And leaks are horrible. So, you give any consideration for this, and you're gonna open Pandora's box, I think.
Do we have any precedents? I know we did once before, at least in my time, where we said you didn't have to pay the sewer bill, you did have to pay the water bill.
Right, and on those occasions, at least from my recollection, it was something like an outdoor leak which was not generating any sewer flows. And that was a logical situation in which to provide relief from the sewer on an excessive water bill. I don't recall that we've compromised sewer bills for interior leaks. I don't recall an instance when that was occurred.
The only thing that would make it not go to the sewer is if there was an irrigation leak. And we know there's not an irrigation leak because he does have a sewer deduction meter, and that kind of volume did not go through that sewer deduction meter this winter.
Seems his quarterly bills fluctuate, goes like a couple hundred, then it's 600. I mean, those are
Well,
Well,
you always
he's out of town, apparently, a decent,
that's a big fluctuation, isn't it, from a couple hundred to 700?
not if you're not living there and just getting the minimal
And
charge.
summer readings are always higher than winter
Yeah, you
readings.
watering and sure, oh yeah.
Washing the
yeah,
car, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was away apparently the 3 months that this was occurring, he wasn't home.
I don't know, I just,
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, so do we want to discuss if there's gonna be, if we're gonna reduce it by anything, or we want to just say we're not setting that precedent?
What are the numbers if you don't charge the sewer?
about half that, it's about $1,600 or something for the sewer.
Yeah,
It's almost half that, I think, right? To be around that.
It would help if I could clear this out and actually tell you, let's do it this way.
I can tell you, we just had, there was an even bigger one, but it was commercial. There's a building at Douglas and Sixth Street, an office building that Loomis owns, and they had a $25,000 bill around the same time as here, and they were disputing it, but it didn't get to this committee. They didn't involve it this committee, but we did the dialogue, we changed the meter out. Again, no explanation. There's no choice here. You can come to the committee, or you can pay the bill. You can pay the bill.
Yeah,
So, he just billed for $178.98, so this total, just subtract, let's say $200, would take you down to $37.48. The breakdown's a little over 2,000 for sewer,
for the 2,000.
about
Oh.
$17.60 for water.
Well, we decided it's not our,
Right,
It
we
didn't come
know
from our
that it
end.
was not the meter,
he's saying it didn't come from his end,
well, it had to.
it had to.
The meter is correct, we had it tested and it's within the range. It had to whatever happened inside the house.
And if we do set precedent, it's gonna keep on
I'm
going.
telling you, it's gonna bite us in the you-know-what. This is dangerous precedent.
Good.
I mean, we've all had issues, with excessive water usage, and we finally determined where it's come from.
Right.
As has been said here, did something occur that he's forgetting to tell us, or?
Well, it still gives me the water softener is old and could possibly cause excessive water use.
Do we wanna throw an olive branch out there and say we're gonna charge the sewer fee? And if we can't come up with a good explanation, then by the end of this third quarter, he'll have to pay the balance of the bill.
Well, what other information are we gonna get?
I don't know.
I mean, unless the next quarterly bill goes out and it's some astronomical amount again, but that just continues to prove the theory that there's an actual leak, it
Yeah.
wasn't an anomaly.
I don't have an issue saying, I don't think money's an issue, but hey, if you wanna pay it off quarterly or whatever, I don't care about that, but I think to reduce the overall amount that he owes is a bad precedent.
Good. Anybody else? Thoughts?
I kinda like Dave's idea,
What was that, paid over a quarter?
Yeah,
paid over a year.
Oh, whatever, I don't care.
I don't think this committee needs to, I mean, people make payment arrangements with him all the time.
I'm just gonna say, I
Yeah.
don't think that's an issue.
No,
That's not an issue.
I don't think this committee needs to.
Somebody else,
handle
yes,
it.
it would be an issue, but not for him, I don't think.
no. But at least it's something we can offer, you know.
That's right, that's fine,
I
yeah.
mean, it's showing them we're trying to work with them anyway.
And there's a late penalty on there too, that could be waived possibly.
Oh, wait, I would waive the late penalty. Absolutely. Any penalties, I would waive any of those, I don't have a problem with
Don't we
that.
need the money in this calendar year? That wouldn't it make sense to have it in by the end of the calendar year for him to, it doesn't matter. Okay. Then, do we have a motion, do we have a motion to not, what we're gonna do here? We're not gonna,
Not reduce the
we're
bill
not gonna reduce the bill,
Not
but give them the
reduce,
opportunity to pay for it over
Over,
the next
over
4 quarters
period
and
of time,
waive,
and waive all the.
waive all
Waive all
penalties.
late fees.
I'll make
Do you-
that motion.
So the only other way, even if he would find whatever the problem was, the only other thing we could do is if he could somehow figure out and get somebody to say what the problem was and it didn't go through the sewer,
Yeah.
then we have to reconsider it.
I
But
totally
he'd
agree
have to
with that.
come back and prove that. If he can show us somehow, if he can come up with somebody that says what the problem is, and somehow it didn't go through the
It did
sewer.
go, oh, yeah, that's,
That has to be outside.
yeah, that's,
But I don't know how you're gonna do that since
Yeah.
nobody's been able to figure it out since January.
I'll make that motion, by the way.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to not reduce the water bill of $3,600 and $3,612.73, but allow the owner to pay for it over the next, is it 4 quarters or? I'm sorry, Brenda.
I would say 4 quarters.
Next 4
And
quarters.
waive any penalty.
And waive any
Waive any
penalties.
penalties. Yeah.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it, and we'll make a caveat that if he finds something that was an anomaly, then we can prove it wasn't, we'll reduce the sewer bill in the future.
I just have a practical question for Jim. To test the meter, do we take it out of the house?
Yes.
Do we put it back in his house?
No, we put in a replacement meter and we'll leave that one in place.
Put a new one in.
We will, the one that was in his house, we'll mark that, came from 1177, tested good, and that'll go back and use at some point.
Okay.
Make sure you write down where it went.
Don't bring it to my.
Gotta show him 50,
Yeah, it's going up
45.
48 Cardinal Road. It's going up 48 Cardinal.
I don't have to worry about it.
All right, listen, I feel bad, I've gotten stuck with larger water bills, never to the tune of $3,600, and I can't I couldn't figure out where it came from, but I know it just came from somewhere. It's not, it didn't just.
Yeah, I ran my hose over to your house.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
And if you can find some way to prove that it was not going through the sewer, then we'll figure that out at some point. Okay, so that takes care of number 20. 21, any old business? Hearing none, any new business? Hearing none, all.
Motion to
Make
adjourn.
a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, second. Meeting adjourned.
Jim, don't we have meters on, Jim, don't we have meters on the bigger pipes? I mean,
I don't know what else to
do
do.
you add up? I mean, you can add up. 20 houses don't have meter on it.
There's certain like Wyomissing Meadows condominiums. There's 4 meter pits in that complex that have a slightly bigger meter than a residential meter. And it leaves that pit and it might service 5 or 6 houses or condominiums.
That could be.
But we only read that meter pit. Once it gets outside the meter,
So if you,
We-
if
I
that's
was
true,
thinking-
we
I
got
was
that
thinking,
information.
does it add up
Right?
with what you read in the houses? See what I'm saying, if you have a big one and then
oh,
Split.
yeah, but like where he's at that master meter where we get the water off of Western Berks Water Authority. 700 houses, you know, it's too big of an area.
Okay.
What's that kicking it down in Canada another month?
No.
When are you looking for your, street 5-year plan? Jim sent me that, he said no rush.
Yeah, no rush